Hi everybody, it's Miss Amy and Abigail! I let her in on 2 chapters with me yesterday and now I can't get rid of her. So Abigail joined us today again and we're going to read 2 chapters from Old Dolls, James and the Giant Peach. Now remember, boys and girls, Miss Amy and Abigail don't own the rights to this book. But Miss Amy owns the book and she's glad she gets to share it with you. So today we're going to read chapter 10 and she's going to read chapter 11. But let's do a quick recap. Are you going to recap with me or am I just going to recap?
Yeah,
I'm just going to recap? Okay. So yesterday we left James and the Giant Peach with James having to go outside and clean up after the huge crowd of people that came and Aunt Sponge and Spiker charged to come in to see the peach. Boys and girls, would you pay to go see a peach? I know some people do. I think there's like this giant rubber band somewhere. Not sure, but I know we've sat in a giant rocking chair on our way back from Illinois before. So, I mean, but we didn't pay for it. It was just there. But anyways, they were charging people to go see the big giant peach. And at the end of the day, after they unlocked him from his bedroom, they sent James out to go clean up after everybody. Wow, they're such nice aunts. I just give them a thumbs up. Oh, wait. Nope. On the Aunt Sponge and Spiker. So he was outside and he was cleaning and he got a little bit closer, a closer perspective, thank you, of the peach. That's why I keep her around, folks. A closer perspective on that peach. He got a little bit closer and got to look at it. He got to feel it. He ran his cheek up against it. Weird, but anyways. But as he was finishing up looking at it and observing it, a closer observation of it, anyways, he saw there was a big hole in it. And that's when the story ended and we left you in a cliffhanger. Oh, look, we matched. Twinsies! Anyways, moving on. Chapter 10. She distracts me just a little. It was quite a large hole, the sort of thing an animal about the size of a fox might have made. James knelt down in front of it and poked his head. Oh, and shoulder. So he poked his head and shoulders in. Inside. He crawled. He kept on crawling. This isn't just a hole, he thought excitedly. It's a tunnel. A tunnel in a peach. I guess you never really think about it, because peaches are usually about that big. A tunnel in the peach. All right. The tunnel was damp and murky, and all around him there was a curious, bittersweet smell of fresh peach. Duh! A fresh peach. The floor was soggy under his knees. Ew, gross. The walls were wet and sticky. Oh, no. And peach juice. Miss Amy doesn't really like peach. Peach juice was dripping from the ceiling. Oh, that's nasty. James opened his mouth and caught some of it on his tongue. Have you ever done that in the shower? Or maybe if you live somewhere where there's snow, even rain, you can just, anyways. So he was catching peach juice on his tongue. It tasted delicious. Now remember also, when they sent James out to clean yesterday, James hadn't eaten anything and they didn't care because they were too busy counting their money. So I bet you that juice was very tasty to him and filled his tummy. He might be like one of those contestants on Survivor and just eat or drink anything at that moment. No, thank you. Anyways, moving on. He was crawling uphill now as though the tunnel were leading straight toward the very center of the gigantic fruit. Every few seconds he paused and took a bite out of the wall. Now that's just weird. I don't think I could bite out of my wall. No, probably not. Might be taste a little bit like sandpaper. A little gritty, sawdust. No thanks. Okay. The peach flesh was sweet and juicy and marvelously I gotta say marvelously every time I see that word. Marvelously refreshing. He crawled on for several more yards and then suddenly, bang! The top of his head bumped into something extremely hard blocking his way. He glanced up. In front of him there was a solid wall that seemed at first as though it were made of wood. Oh, what do you think it is? He's in a peach. What do y'all think that hard thing is? Do you think it's really a wall? Do you think it's a wall? No. Think about a peach. All right, let's see if you're right. He touched it with his fingers. It certainly felt like wood, except that it was very jagged and full of deep grooves. Boys and girls, jagged means kind of wiggly, ruggly. It's not smooth. It's not soft. You can't just, it's not just perfectly smooth. And grooves mean something that you could get into maybe if it wasn't too tight around it. So, just in case you don't know those words. Good heavens, he said. I know what this is. Do you remember what it is? Do you know what it is? Let's see. I've come to the stone in the middle of the peach. Stone? See, they're in England. They must call them stones. We call them pits or seed. But that's what it was. Then he noticed that there was a small door cut into the face of the peach stone. Ooh, who could have put that there? We might be finding something new and marvelously peculiar about this peach. He gave a push. It swung open. He crawled through it. And before he had time to glance up and see where he was, he heard a voice saying, "Look who's here!" And another one said, "We've been waiting for you." James stopped and stared at the speakers, his face white with horror. Ooh, that means he's scared. He started to stand up, but his knees were shaking. Ooh, too much. He had to sit down again on the floor. He glanced behind him, thinking he could bolt back into the tunnel the way he had come, but the doorway had disappeared. Uh-oh, I wonder if he's trapped. That's scary. That's why you should never go into places that you don't know where it heads to. It's not safe. There was now only a solid brown wall behind him. Ooh, look, we got a little picture of James at the pit, or as he called it, the stone, within the peach, and pushing on the door. Well, isn't that just peachy? Dun-dun-dun. And now, it goes to chapter 11, to Abigail. She's going to try to do some voices for us. Now, if Miss Amy doesn't keep up with those voices, I'm sorry. That's our voices, not mine.
James' large, frightened eyes traveled slowly across the room. The creatures, some sitting in chairs, others reclining on a sofa, were all watching him intently. Creatures? Or were they insects? An insect is usually something rather small, is it not? A grasshopper, for example, is an insect. So, what could you call it if you saw a grasshopper as large as a dog?
Woof!
As
Woof!
large as a large dog.
Woof! Woof!
You could hardly call that an insect, could you? There was an old green grasshopper, as large as a large dog, sitting on a stool directly across the room from James now. And next to the old green grasshopper, there was an enormous spider. And next to the spider, there was a giant ladybug with 9 black spots on her scarlet shell. Each of these 3 were squatting upon a magnificent chair. On a sofa nearby, reclining comfortably in curled up positions, there was a centipede and an earthworm. On the floor, over in the far corner, there was something thick and white that looked as though it might be a silkworm.
Ew.
But
That just got even grosser.
but it was sleeping soundly, and nobody was paying any attention to it. Each one of these creatures was at least as big as James himself, and in the strange greenish light that shone down from somewhere in the ceiling, they were absolutely terrifying to behold.
Ooh, what was it, Abigail? What was it? What was hanging from the ceiling?
It was a light.
Oh, whew, I got lost. I thought it was something nasty coming out of the ceiling. Okay, keep going. Sorry, my bad.
I'm hungry, the spider announced suddenly, staring hard at James. I'm famished, the old green grasshopper said. So am I, the ladybug cried. The centipede sat up a little straighter on the sofa. Everyone's famished, he said. We need food. Four pairs of round, black, glassy eyes were all fixed upon James. The centipede made a wriggling movement with his body as though he were about to glide off the sofa, but he didn't. There was a long pause and a long silence. The spider, who happened to be a female spider, opened her mouth and ran a long black tongue delicately over her lips. Aren't you hungry? She asked suddenly, leaning forward and addressing herself to James. Poor James was backed up far against the wall, shivering with fright and much too terrified to answer. What's the matter with you? The old green grasshopper asked. You look positively ill. He looks as though he's going to faint any second, the centipede said. Oh my goodness, the poor thing, the ladybug cried. I do believe he thinks it's him that we are going to eat.
Do you think it's him that they're going to eat?
There was a roar of laughter from all sides. Oh dear, they said. What an awful thought. You mustn't be frightened, the ladybug said kindly. We wouldn't dream of hurting you. You are one of us now. Didn't you know that? You are one of the crew. We're all in the same boat.
We're all in this together, yeah, yeah.
We've been waiting for you all day long, the old green grasshopper said. We thought you were never going to turn up. I'm glad you made it. So cheer up, my boy. Cheer up, the centipede said. And meanwhile, I wish you'd come over here and give me a hand with all these boots. It takes me hours to get them all off by myself. And here's a picture of all the insects in their chairs and on the sofa.
Look, we got the green grasshopper, the spider, the ladybug, the centipede, and the wiggly worm.
And the silkworm.
Oh, yes, the little silkworm back in the corner. And nothing weird hanging from the ceilings, just light.
And that is the end of chapter 11.
Boys and girls, why don't they just eat the stupid peach? Oh, Miss Amy said stupid. I'm so sorry. But it just makes me wonder, when I said I hate that word, and here I said it. Why aren't they eating the peach? Eat the peach if you're hungry, right? I mean, if I was hungry, even though I don't like peaches, I think I'd eat a peach. They're not being held captive in there. Why don't they wiggle on out and go eat whatever they eat outside of the peach?
Well, the door disappeared.
Ah, the door disappeared.
And they're in wood.
It's not wood. It's the stone, the pit, the seed. It's not wood.
It's like wood.
It's like wood. Anyways, boys and girls, what do you think's going to happen next? I'm so glad that James has made some friends, though. He didn't think they were friends at first, though, did he? He was rather scared of him. But thank you for joining me and Abigail and Roald Dahl's James and the Giant Peach. And we will bring the next 2 chapters to you tomorrow. And if you're watching or listening to this before bedtime, good night and
Sleep tight.